Okay, we are live. Good evening. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. Tonight we might be talking about CPS trial strategies. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Darren Guay. Darren, good evening. How are you? And we also have a very special guest I see, Mr. Daryl Macy. Mr. Macy, good evening. How are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Good, good. Where are you calling in from?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What's going on in Tulsa?
Well, my kids were taken April 14th, and I had a few questions about fighting CPS and getting them back.
Well, go ahead. What are your questions?
All right. Well, we already went through this like a couple years ago. They took our kids, and my son's 10 and my daughter's 4. They took them in the beginning just because we didn't answer the door whenever they came and did a home check. So they got the judge to grant custody of them, and they took them. They took my oldest son from school, and they took my daughter from our arms in the house with a police officer. But after we got them, we worked what we had to work, and we got them back. And I didn't get everything finished like my parenting classes and stuff. So instead of giving custody to me and my girlfriend, both of us, they went ahead and gave custody to her and said that the ruling was the piece of paper says uh, the natural mother is granted custody and the natural father is to be supervised visits at with my girlfriend's discretion, a third party with her discretion. So this new CPS worker comes in the picture, and she she sees me at the hospital with my daughter, and she walks in. She says, "You have a no contact order. You need to leave and go take a drug test." I said, "Okay." So I left, and whenever the next time I heard from her or talked to her was the day that she was taking the kids on April 14th, and I was at okay. I rent a house, and my girlfriend has an apartment. She lives at her apartment, but the kids go to school right out the neighborhood of where I live, and so I gave her the house, and she was supposed to be moving into the apartment just whenever she could. We had like 4 more weeks of school left, so she was staying there. Well, I have a motorcycle, and I rode over here and broke down, so I was kind of stuck here in the morning, and I went to say hi to the kids. I made them breakfast, because since the judge said it was a third party at her discretion, her friend comes over, and to my knowledge, that's a third party to supervise it. It doesn't say any agency or anything. It just says third party. So I'm here. I'm cooking breakfast, and my son, he starts acting out, and he tells my wife or my girlfriend, "I don't want to see your ugly face." Well, when he said that, I'm dad, so I went in and I told him he needed to turn around. I was going to bust his butt, and whenever I did, he put his hand back behind him, and I kind of scuffed it. Well, my son's arm's broken. Okay, he had a compound fracture on it, and it was like in the last steps. He got his cast off like a week after this happened, so it's not like it was a fresh break or anything. But my pointer finger and my thumb caught the palm of his hand, and he just thought that was horrible, and so upset and mad at me, he went to school, and he told some, I think a counselor or his teacher told him that I was beating on him and had slapped him in the face, and that my wife or my girlfriend was in the background saying, "Oh, do it again, do it again." Well, there was none of this. I spanked him. He put his hand back there, and I know that he's lying because I was told they got put in a foster home that night. Okay, well, before that, let me tell you, before this, the kid, my neighbor picks up my daughter from school after school's over, and I'm still at the house. Um, and my girlfriend, she's at the house, so we still have that third party. And whenever the CPS worker came, she told she knocked on the door. She seen me in the garage, so she knocked on the front door, and the third party friend, she answered the door, and the first thing the CPS worker said to my girlfriend was, "What part of no contact order did you not understand?" Well, she's never had a I've never had a no contact order again with my kids, and so she said the next thing she said was, "I'm not leaving here today without your kids." And by God, that rang true. That she was here for 5 or 6 hours. I mean, 5 or 6 hours. I don't know what she was doing. She was in her truck sometimes. She was in the house. She mainly just sat in the house with them. And my kids were crying the whole 5 hours. My girlfriend was crying the whole 5 hours. And I just didn't know. I just didn't get why, if it says a third party, what the problem was.
Have you gotten the children back since then?
No, no, no. We went to court. We went to court the other day, and they they got passed.
I don't follow that. What do you mean?
Well, we went into court, and what was it, adjudication, but they passed us. But her attorney just said that he was new on the case, so he said he needed time to study up on the case, and he asked if he could get a pass, and they said yeah, until June 20th. And I mean, I haven't seen my kid. I have not seen my kids since the 14th, and I'm talking. I see my kid. I was seeing my kids every day, because the third party neighbor, she was a neighbor, so she could come over here at any moment. Whenever she heard my motorcycle coming up the road, she'd just jump up, and she's just a friend of my girlfriend's, and she would be here just to supervise.
So, do you have a lawyer?
I don't have. I have. Well, CPS. The courts appoint you an attorney, but I mean, right before they come into court, they're having lunch with CPS workers. They're very buddy with them.
And so, but you do have a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long have the kids been out of your custody?
Since the 14th.
Of April?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you been to at least one court hearing so far?
Yes, one court hearing. It was just 2 days ago.
And what did the judge say at that hearing?
They said, well, let me see here. Said deprived. Yeah, this is for the next court hearing. It says it's the petition. It's deprived adjudication and disposition, deprived adjudication with imminent termination of parents' rights.
That they're saying that at the first hearing?
Yeah.
Imminent.
Well, go ahead, Bjorn.
You said imminent termination of parental rights?
Yeah.
Mr. Davis, what say you on that one? Is this supposed to be the 72-hour hearing we're talking about, or the?
Well, he went to the 72-hour hearing.
Right.
And this is what they're telling him. Now, I'm not a guru on Oklahoma law, but, they all have that same federal framework. So at the detention hearing, the judge usually decides where the child's going to stay pending the next hearing, depending on the allegations of the social worker against you and or the mother. So what allegations did they make against you? Did they say you broke the kid's arm or something?
No. What they said was what I read was it was them asking my kids questions. My son said that I had spanked him, slapped him and popped him in the mouth, which never happened. And then they asked the kids if they were scared of me. They said, yeah, there's no way these kids are scared of me, because I mean, they're my babies. I'm
So
everything to him.
do you think the kids really said this, or that the social
No,
worker putting words
my
in their mouth?
Yeah, my daughter's 5 years old. There's no way she's gonna come right out and be like, I'm scared of my dad.
Mhm.
He's just not gonna say it. And
And
my son,
and
see, they put him in a foster home that he was at prior to this, and his foster brother that was there, and they lived together for like a year, but he was there, his little foster brother, and we got messages from him stating that you know, whenever he got over here, he started crying. He felt really bad because he told me a secret that everything that he told the workers were lies. And he said, I think you might need to go back and tell him the truth because this isn't a good situation. And he goes, well, I've already committed to this. And so we asked the CPS workers, well, what if he says that it was a lie? They go, it doesn't matter if he says it's a lie. It just means that you talked to him, you made him fearful, and he's telling us that what he said wasn't true. So pretty much, it doesn't matter if he says it was a lie or not. They're still gonna take it as that happened.
did you mention this to your lawyer?
No, my attorney's only called me one time, and it's not like she wants to be on my case. She told me whenever we left the courtroom the other day that if I had money for an attorney, then I needed to go get an attorney because she's not getting paid. And I said, excuse me? She goes, yeah, if you have money for anything else, then you can go and get an attorney and I can be freed up. I was like, okay. So it doesn't really sound like my attorney's in it to win it for anything. She's just a court-appointed attorney.
Are you able to afford a private attorney in your area?
No, I'm on disability, so I only get so much money a month.
Have your kids been placed with relatives or family friends?
No, they were in the beginning, like years ago, whenever this all started. They were with my sister, but my sister since then is she's moving, so they put them with the old foster family for like 3 days or 4 days, and then the foster family was going on a vacation, so they put them in custody of this other couple somewhere. I don't know them, but
Well,
I finally got kids today.
What I would suggest is that you talk to your lawyer and you try to get these kids with some friendly, relatives or family friends. So definitely talk to your lawyer about that, okay?
Okay. And another question I had.
Well, what is it? Is it your girlfriend? Is your girlfriend or your wife the one that's the natural mother? Are the kids? Are you?
Well, we've been together like 12 plus years.
Yeah,
so
right. So you guys are one and the same when you say your wife person. What are they saying about her though?
They're trying to. They said inappropriate caretaker for her, and they're trying to terminate her rights too as well.
Right. So they're saying that she enables you or something along those lines, that she's an enabler.
Yeah, she doesn't quite understand that. Well, what it is they told me that this is the house that they were living in was all of our house, and they said since I didn't complete my parenting classes that I couldn't be here, which I didn't argue that, and I moved out. I moved out and with my brother-in-law.
And this is all from this is all from this because you said that you guys had a previous case. Did I hear you?
Yeah,
say that?
It was deprived. Yeah, it was something it was so off the wall. All this is just so off the wall. Like,
so that other
no
case
clue.
from you guys walked away and everything was fine.
Yes, she walked away with the kids. Yeah, the judge gave her custody, me to be supervised visits, and so this new worker they brought up allegations of abuse and all kinds of stuff just because they seen on my record where my girlfriend had filed a protective order, but she never followed through with it. She never even went back. It was just something she did one day and then just stopped.
So they're kind of basing what their allegations are off of previous criminal misconduct, if you will, or allegations anyway that you've been going after.
Yeah.
That's what they're basing all their premise off of. And then you had this incident that took place at the school that you're someone said, right, that you had spanked. Now, did they have any evidence that this happened, or did they try to use the broken arm or anything that this happened?
No evidence. Like there was no marks or anything. We have the x-ray of his arm. His arm's perfectly fine. I never heard it, anything like that. It was just,
there's no police trying to press charges or any of that type of stuff.
Nope. It's just DHS, like the CPS worker, whenever he got to school and I guess he told the teacher or whatnot. And they, by law, they have to call the worker. She went to the school or talked to the school, and then she came over here to the house. And whenever she was here, she showed up. My daughter wasn't here yet. Okay. She shows up, and so sorry. She shows up, and my wife's car's broke down. So the CPS worker wanted to go to the school and pick up my son. Okay, so they leave the CPS worker for the third party, it being a third party and all. The CPS worker allowed the neighbor to hold on to my daughter and knew I was still here at the house and left with my girlfriend to go and pick up my son. So the CPS worker left my daughter in, without a third party, actually. Because her and my wife went to pick up my son from the school.
So what did they say the imminent danger was, that it would make them so that they removed the children from your home, and that a judge warranted? Did a judge sign was there a warrant or anything that the judge signed to remove the child? Is that why the caseworker was sitting around for so long? Was she waiting for court papers?
Yeah, because she sat there for like 5 or 6 hours. She was here. Did she get a warrant?
She just told me they were looking for a place to take the kids.
She just told my girlfriend that they were looking for a place to place the kids. Okay. And then after 5 or 6 hours, I guess they found a place. And so she loaded them up and she vanished off into the night.
And they never showed you any paperwork, anything like any?
I wasn't here after that. No, that day whenever they took the kids.
Right. They should. So, Mr. Davis, am I right in saying this, that they're supposed to present to you some sort of paperwork when they come and they remove your child?
Absolutely. It's supposed to be a warrant or a court order.
They gave us nothing.
They didn't give anything at all.
Okay, Mr. Davis, in that instance, what do you say I know it's California way, but in general, is there something that a lawyer like you of California, if this was that instance, that you could do immediately to try to engage this and reverse this taking of the children?
Nothing that I can do personally.
No, I don't mean you, but you, meaning you as the lawyer. I know in California it would be different than Oklahoma, but in cases where the caseworkers come in and present no paperwork, what is there a procedure or anything that you as an attorney, if you were an attorney, or you are an attorney, but what would you do next if you were to find this out?
Well, if the case was in California, what I would do is I would probably file a civil rights lawsuit, because it sounds like the social worker violated his and the mother's Fourth Amendment rights to unreasonable search and seizure. Mm-hmm. You can't detain a child unless you have a court order or a warrant, or you have exigent circumstances. And from what Mr. Macy has described so far, that's not exigent circumstances. Now, here's the problem, though. You can't go into juvenile court, at least in California, and say, hey, my Fourth Amendment rights were violated, because the judge in the CPS case doesn't have anything to do with that. They don't have any subject matter jurisdiction over that claim. You actually have to go to state or federal court and bring a civil rights claim.
Okay.
And by the way, even if they did violate your Fourth Amendment rights, it's not going to help you in the CPS case if you were in California.
Now, but there's nothing more like his attorney could look in, because that just seems really strange that they can come in and take your kid, right? And not present, or is that something that you have to stop at the moment that it's happening and question? Is it one of those kind of situations where if you didn't catch it when they did it, now you're in for the long haul for the legal system?
Pretty much. But even if he had mentioned it, he's probably in an area or a state that they don't care.
All right.
So what? Sue us.
Yeah, they seem like that's exactly what they think.
Yeah, 'cause she
And
offered.
here's the even worse part of the problem. The worker that did it, if you were in California and you sued him or her,
Mhm.
even if they lost, they don't pay the judgment. The county pays. So you could sue a social worker and they don't really care.
Yeah,
Because if they did wrong, right?
the kid's gonna pay.
Yeah, the government's going to pay for them. So
And
there's no personal consequence
and
because
see that
when they go back to the office, they're going to be like, "Hey, we're protecting children,"
right.
and that's like the excuse, the biggest defense in the world. We did it because we're protecting children. There was a county out here in California. They were sued for civil rights violations. They lost, I think the amount was $9 million. Can you imagine? The jury gave the parents a judgment for $9 million. They appealed it to the next court. The next court said, we agree with the jury. Then they appealed it to the California Supreme Court. And I think the California Supreme Court denied hearing it.
Yeah.
And then they appealed it to the United States Supreme Court. And they got no love there. So the $9 million verdict stands. The reporters go and interview the head of this county's CPS. And you know what he says? He says, if we had to do it over, we'd do the same thing because we're protecting children. Now, that's easy for him to say because he's not paying the $9 million.
Right.
Right. There's
Of
no
course,
reprimand
of
for any of
course,
them for doing this.
right. Of course, he'll do the same thing over because there is no personal responsibility there because in that case, the county paid off the money.
Yeah.
I
So
happen
is
to
there
know.
no?
I happen to know the attorney that was the attorney for the family, and he shakes his head because when he originally started doing the case, I think he thought that this will change something. This will school the social workers. This
Right.
will make them change. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
You know, they just, well, whatever. We'll protect children and fight for God, in the next case.
Yeah.
Because that's what they think this is. It's some
Mhm.
kind of religious, thing they're doing. And, to hell with people like Mr. Macy and Mr. Guy. So
Mhm.
they
You
got,
know,
so they got trampled. It's like, in a military action, there's always, or usually, what do they call it when civilians get killed?
Oh,
Um,
casual.
what do they call
collateral.
it? Collateral damage.
Mhm.
That's accepted.
Yeah.
And it's easy for us to accept it because we're sitting here, in America, there's nothing going to happen to us.
Mhm.
Right.
But what if somebody were bombing us and our kids were getting killed? I look at TV now in the Ukrainian war, and it's such a big deal that Russia is bombing these people, and they're firing missiles at apartment buildings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's horrendous, right? It's collateral
Mhm.
Yeah.
damage. But nobody's outraged enough to go do something about it.
All right. And that's the whole problem with it. Look at how many people are just like Mr. Macy's here. Look at how many people this happens to there's a child a minute in this country taken into CPS custody. A child a minute. And if you're going to tell me that every 60 kids every hour that have come out of there have the same warranted paperwork that they need, they don't. But no one is doing a damn thing about stopping these people from doing it. The problem is that Mr. Davis ends up with the aftermath. Like, sure, there's something that he probably could have done if hindsight was 2020, or if he had a crystal ball to say, hey, I know that they're going to come without a warrant, so I'll be there to defend this. But he doesn't. So by the time, in your situation, and it was the same in mine, the same thing, like there's nothing. Now he's got to knuckle down and get into the courtrooms with them. I mean, there is no like magic concoction, right, to wrong this or to right this wrong.
Darren, here's the problem. It's that when this is happening to you in the very beginning, to you and Mr. Macy, you think in your heart of hearts that my government won't screw me like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Yeah.
then they screw you, they lie on you, they twist the facts just a little bit to win or to keep the kid away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're left scratching your head like, how could this ever go on in America?
Yeah.
But I tell you right now, turn on CNN, turn on Fox, turn on MSNBC, and you will see stories about local, statewide, national government corruption. And it has no bounds. It's just not Republicans, it's Democrats, it's everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People are people. And the only way, and I say this all the time, the only way things are going to change unless we change the laws. And how do we change the laws? We vote.
I don't even think it's changing laws as much as it is getting someone to act and abide by them.
Yeah.
Well, you are hopeful, my friend.
Mm.
You are hopeful. Because the way the laws are written now is that, and the way they have been interpreted, you give an inch and they take a mile. But when you're in law school, when I went to law school, you see this all the time in everything. It's not just CPS. It could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
It could be criminal law. It could be real estate law. It could be personal injury law, or what they call torts. You give a person, a human being, an inch, they're going to try to take a mile.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to stop that, you have to change the law.
Now, how come a CPS agent can go in and first say, like he said, they sit on the phone for 5 or 6 hours to get placement for their kid? I'm going to go ahead and assume, let's say that they were waiting for the judge to sign the warrant. Now, how come a CPS warrant agent, because let's just play that it was done rightfully. Now, how come a CPS agent can go in and get an order that day to take your kid away, but you as my attorney can't come immediately back forth, push yourself into the courtroom and say, hey, Your Honor, give us these kids back? Why is that a one-way door here? Or is this one of these rules or laws that you're talking about needing to change?
That's one of those rules or laws I'm talking about needing
All right.
to change. I read this somewhere. I don't know where I read this. But there's a state in this country who's seriously considering and talking about at the state legislative level to significantly change CPS laws. In other words, we're not going to let social workers just go take kids anymore, because that's kind of BS. It started out as, if there was a serious physical, sexual abuse, something happening to the kid by the parent, parents crazy or parents on drugs or something, we got to save that kid. Now, if you were drunk on Saturday night and you had a fight with your wife and the kids were over at grandma's or even in another room, we're taking your kids.
Yeah.
Nothing happened to the kid. And in a lot of cases, kid was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. If we leave the kid with you, could something happen? Yeah, something could happen. And so what happens is we take the kid away from you. But here is the problem. The analysis shouldn't stop there. Here's the analysis. If we take the kid and place the kid in foster home, what assurances do we have that the kid's not going to be abused in foster home?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even address that in the courtroom.
Absolutely not.
Right. And at some hearings, the level of foster care that the kid is given is not even admissible at some of the hearings. And then, sometimes I get the impression that nobody wants to acknowledge that.
And can
What if we acknowledge that the kid is being abused in these different foster homes? Sometimes, not 100%, but sometimes. Like, how could we ever justify as a society that we should take kids away from parents? They can't do anything worse. You know what? I got a law review article from Darren yesterday, and I was reading it today. It's called The Harm of Child Removal, and it was written by a law professor at the University of Baltimore School of Law. Okay, and it's just in 2019. This article goes through and talks about the actual harm that you do to a child when you remove a child.
Yeah.
There's emotional and psychological harms. There's something called the separation and attachment disorder. Nobody wants to hear about that. The only time they bring that up, or I've heard that brought up, is when you're trying to get the kid back and the kid's been in foster home a long time.
Yeah.
They say the kid is going to have separation and detachment disorders if you take the child away from the foster
care. Right.
Well, wait a minute.
take them away from us.
We did that at the very first hearing.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that the law professor talks about is there's trauma inherent in the act of removal. Just the act of taking somebody out of their home, placing him with strangers.
Yeah.
You're automatically going to be harmed.
Yeah, you were removing somebody that has no knowledge of what even happened and putting them in a complete desolate place with no knowledge or no security blankets, no nothing.
Right. The third thing that happens to these kids, according to the author, that there's grief and confusion due to separation from one's family. Now, let's think about it. And I actually made this argument, I think it was maybe last week, and the judge, in a very close case, ruled in my favor. I said, Your Honor, let's imagine that you are a 5-year-old, or an 8-year-old, however the kid was, little girl, and you're taken from the parents, the mother, your only security emotionally, physically, psychologically, and you're placed with a stranger.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what happens to that child? And I told the judge, I said, you know what? And I was speaking from my own personal experience. You're going to be damaged for life. Damaged for life. And then this author goes on to talk
about growing up before your time.
This author talks about unique harms for minority children. I mean, Darren posted this law review article. I don't know if you gave it to me in a private chat, Darren, but at some point, if you could post it on this page to all of the people that are watching, or if you could give it to Grace and she'll do it for us, people, you need to read this article. Now, this isn't by some wacky parent, right? Quote unquote. This is by a law school professor. And she talks about this from a psychological and legal point of view. And she has tons and tons of evidence to support her position from psychological studies and from other, types of
case.
Yes. Now,
I had a quick question for you.
Go ahead.
On parental alienation by investigator, is that like for civil rights? Like I can take that to civil rights.
You can, but here's the thing, Macy. This is really important. What I'm going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
You think you have a civil rights claim, and you probably do. The problem is, are you and your lawyer going to know how to dodge the landmines and traps in court to get you to the finish line in the pot of gold?
I don't know.
Right. So here's the thing. If somebody runs into you at a stoplight, it's a pretty fair, straightforward thing. But if you try to prove your civil rights were violated, you're basically trying to figure out how to send a man to the moon. It's it's almost rocket science.
Right.
And there's so many traps and tricks, you know.
Yeah.
And by the way, these governmental entities, probably all over the the United States, when they get sued, they have the best lawyers representing them.
Oh yeah.
Okay, what does a good lawyer do for you? Well, did you watch the O.J. Simpson trial?
Yeah.
People versus O.J.
Yeah.
If O.J. don't have the dream team, guess what? He would have been convicted of killing
Yeah.
2 people.
Definitely.
Okay. Now, I'm not making a comment whether he did or he didn't. I'm just saying what would have happened if he doesn't have the dream team.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't think any criminal case has had such attorney talent on it than that case.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I don't think it's ever been a mess. Here's something funny. I'll share this with you. I recently went to court as a new attorney on the case. The attorney had, the parent had 2 lawyers already, and the parent wanted to add me to the team, and we were affectionately being called the Dream Team because it's something that you don't see a lot in juvenile dependency cases,
Yeah.
right? But let me tell you something. Whether you're the social worker or the parent, or you're suing for civil rights, it matters. It matters who you have as your lawyer, and don't feel that just because everybody knows you got screwed by the social worker that you're going to win, because that's
Right.
not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You'd be surprised the legal arguments a qualified, high-powered defense attorney can make.
Yeah.
You'd be shocked. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all moral and it's all ethical in
How
our
about case?
system. How about
Sorry.
what?
Case reassignment, like all new CPS workers. Is there any way I can go about getting that?
I don't know in your state, but in California, there's a way to do it. But that just appears on paper. That's just in the
Yeah.
statutes. Have I ever seen that happen in 37 years, or over 30 years doing juvenile dependency cases? I've been doing juvenile dependency cases like almost 34 years. Have I ever seen a social worker be removed from a CPS case? The answer is yes. And I could probably count them on 4 or 3 fingers.
Wow. Well, the CPS, the supervisor of our first case, I don't know if he was trying to just get me to let my guard down or what, or if he was just feeling, I feeling some type of way about his past, what he's done with the past. But he told me, he said on the phone, and he told me that he said, I had the God complex whenever I first got into this position, supervisor. I said, yeah, and he said, and I can't even tell you how many kids I've taken away from their parents, and probably shouldn't have, because there was nothing wrong with them. I just wanted to because I had the God complex.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, wow. So at the beginning, I knew this was going to be a rough one whenever they got in our lives. So
that's
And
very
that's why it's
interesting.
always that's
very
that's why it's
interesting.
always a record too. Record if you can. Record your conversations. Only email. Like these are very important things that need to be done when you're in these cases, because then you can go back and review it and say, look, this guy said this. Now it's just by the word of what you've said by mouth. So they're going to knock that right out of the courtroom if you tried to bring that in there. But had you had that recorded and that gentleman said that to you, or in an email or whatever, and he said that, you can do something with it. So these are very important things in these cases, is do as much as writing down, keeping track of, emails and all of those things, recording them if you can, if the state allows it, that's very important.
yeah.
I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. This happened decades ago. I would travel to this one county to do cases every once in a while. And it came out, and it was all in the newspapers. You could actually Google this and go back a couple decades, that the prosecuting attorney that represented the social worker was having a relationship with the judge. And apparently this wasn't like a short thing. It was a longer thing, and it lasted for, from what I understand, for years. Now, after the investigation and everything was made public, and I remember seeing the article in the Los Angeles Daily Journal. It's a local newspaper, so you might want to Google that. They defrocked the judge. He stepped down, or was made to step down, and he went back to private practice. But then the State Bar of California disbarred him for his actions as a judge. I don't think anything ever happened to the woman. Attorney, I don't know. But, you know, I say that because, you know, odd things like that, you see them in life. You know, you might have saw it at work, you might have saw it at school, you might see it within your family or whatever. Things like that happen when people are involved. So, you know, when people say, oh, he's a conspiracy nut, I don't take that lightly at all, because the things that I've seen, you would never believe. You know, just the craziest, wildest thing. But if people are involved, anything can happen. Hey, Mr. Macy, you're sideways now. Did you know that?
Yeah, my screen just kind of blanked out, so I'm trying to get back on there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey, Darren,
Yes,
do
sir.
do me a favor in your spare time. Google that story that I just told you.
I will. I've got it written down already.
And when
you know me.
when you read the article that I'm referring to, you're going to be like shaking your head, thinking, like, really? Did this really happen? And by the way, allegedly, I don't know, he was the judge on cases that she was the prosecutor.
Prosecuting, I'm sure. Right. Absolutely. It's, people don't understand how often this stuff is more and more prevalent in our society. You know, like how many cases do you have that you feel like you should have the judge step down because they are, have them recuse themselves from a hearing, and because of case law and stuff that you just can't do it. And you're like, are you kidding me? This is the judge's brother right here. Or, like something similar like that. I mean, you've been a lawyer for some time, so I'm sure that you must see this more often than not, right? Like that's what you said. You shake your head at stuff because you've been around for quite some time. You've seen everything.
No, I haven't seen everything. I'm
Right.
still
You've yet to
surprised
see the
every
dinosaur and the
day.
donkey walk into court, but
Right.
there's still time.
I'm still surprised every day. It looked like we lost Mr. Macy, I think.
He went sideways and bounced out, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's having technical difficulties. Hey, Darren, we're coming up on the time limit for the show tonight. Anything that you wanted to talk to me about or ask me?
No, if anything, I think I would like to know a little bit more in your opinion of like I have such a problem with the way that CPS comes into places and just takes children. Like, number one, the fact that it's not normally, or it's not done under a judge's watch because they rubber stamp, like it's not what is that, a wet ink warrant or whatever they would call it, or up here they call it a preliminary protection order, or, so on and so forth. But the problem is this: imminent danger. What is imminent danger, and what is the bar set at, or what should it be, or how do you feel that this should be handled? Because imminent, it's such a vague thing. Like you could be in imminent danger from eating too many chocolate chip cookies, if that's what they think is a dietitian, or whatever. What is imminent danger, and how do you feel like it is being wrongly used with CPS?
Well, in my mind, imminent danger is very hard to define. And I'll tell you why. What's imminent danger to me is different for you. And it's different for every human being on the planet. We don't have the same definition. So, by definition, it's going to be unfairly applied. At least that's what we're going to think. All right. So, but imminent danger in my mind means this child is, this close to being,
death's door is here,
harmed. Now, I don't see that in very many cases. Have I ever seen where a kid was, in in imminent danger? Yeah, I've seen them. You know, and by the way, I'll tell you something else, a little known secret. There's child abuse in the world, Darren.
Oh, correctly. Yes, sir, there is.
The problem becomes when it's really not child abuse or it's really not imminent danger, and we snatch these kids and throw them in a foster home. That's the problem.
That's the child abuse.
Right.
You know, it really
Well,
is.
just like the law review article that you gave me,
Mm-hmm.
she claims and writes and supports it, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
says taking a child from the home is traumatic. It's a traumatic thing for the child. And if we actually do a balancing test, and I think she does this in the article, I haven't
Mm-hmm.
finished it, but if you put the risk of leaving the child at a 7 with the parents,
Mm-hmm.
but the risk is at 10 if you traumatize the kid by moving, what
Right.
should
What
you
did you just do? Right.
what yeah, exactly. What did you just do to this child?
Right. You've destroyed the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And you know, I say this all the time. You know, early on in my career, I used to do foster care licensing hearings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a foster parent and they want to take your license away from you because you allegedly did something wrong, like abuse a kid, um, you're entitled to a hearing and you're entitled to fight to keep your license. Okay. Those proceedings are confidential. Those proceedings do not happen in the juvenile court. Generally speaking, the judge and the social worker do not know anything about the outcomes of those hearings. They don't know how many hearings there are. They don't know the foster parents that are involved, etc., etc., etc. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you were a judge putting kids in foster homes, wouldn't you want to know some of that
Yeah,
stuff?
you would think that that would be right on the table as to where am I
Right.
putting these kids? Right.
Here's one of the things I would want to know. Well, social worker, if you're taking this kid out of the family home because of domestic violence, okay, where are you putting the kid?
Mm-hmm.
And has this person have any allegations ever made against this person?
Mm-hmm.
You
Like
know,
in my case.
I have a case right now. I have a case right now. No, listen to this. They placed a kid in a home where the foster parent's significant other was registered on Megan's list. In
Oh,
California, Megan's list is
right.
like you're a sexual predator.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait a minute. Shouldn't somebody be thinking about that other than the social worker?
When they took our daughter, it took me 32 minutes. They said that this person was a fictive kin or whatever, and we had never heard of this person. Anyway, when they took her, it took me 32 minutes to find them on one of those voyeur sites. And then we went and looked even further. The two kids that were in the house with her they both were witnessed to their mother murdering their father. These children had then burnt the house down that they had lived in on the previous year. And this list went on and on and on. Now, they took a 3-year-old little girl who had never left her parents before and inserted her into this home where there's obvious issues and trauma and everything else going on. And that was fine. And they said that they checked them out for 6 hours. 6 hours. It took me 32 minutes to find that amount of information. So yes, I think that a judge definitely should know, because they too once were a foster home that lost their license just dilapidated or whatever they did. And they just were inserted here now. You know, my daughter, like, it's just, man, these judges need to pay, all these people need to pay attention to what's
Well, you
going
know,
on.
but here's the thing: there's nothing in the law to make them or provide them information. So we just automatically think we're placing them in a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Foster
Just
care.
like we assume that it's going to work the way it's supposed to and protect us.
Right, right. Okay, Darren, we're going to have to stop the show right now. We're going to be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. And on the weekends, we have the show on Saturdays and Sundays at 9:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Darren, I want to thank you for joining me this evening. Hopefully, I'll
Mm-hmm.
see you tomorrow. And
Yes, sir. Come hell or high water.
everyone, thank you for watching tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, Darren, you says you want to talk to me after the show?
Yeah.
Do you
I
have
got
my
something good for you.
You have my mobile number?
I believe I do. Can you shoot it on this real quick, if you don't
I'll
mind?
put it on the private chat right now.
Yeah.
Although I've posted it many times, in
No,
the
I'm pretty
public.
sure. I'm in a different notebook right now, so I might not have it in this one. All right, I got it, Mr. Davis. I'm
Okay.
gonna call you right now.
Okay. Talk to you
All
then.
right.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you then. Bye bye.
Good night, everyone.